Tensions are running high across LA County after a spate of immigration sweeps by federal agents starting Friday in LA. Dozens of people have been arrested. Protests in downtown LA on Friday were followed by more incidents yesterday, like when some protesters faced off with federal agents and local law enforcement in the city of Paramount, south of downtown LA. In response to protests and what it calls acts of violence, the Trump administration said it would deploy at least 2,000 National Guard members and potentially members of the armed forces. Joining me now is Democratic Congressmember Nanette Barragán. She represents the 44th district that includes Paramount, where some protesters faced off with federal agents. Hello, Representative. Can you tell us what happened yesterday in Paramount? We heard that there was an immigration operation there, or at least one was rumored.
Basically, what happened was that you had ICE officials in a staging location. It appears they were about to do some kind of enforcement down at the Home Depot, and protesters got wind of it, came out, started protesting. It started peacefully. Unfortunately, it turned at some point more violent, and the officers, the federal officers, ICE and Homeland, they were deploying tear gas, and they were shooting pellets at people. And so it got very disruptive and violent. And we want to make sure people, when they're going to protest, they protest peacefully and no violence at all, because that's something we don't agree with.
So there actually was not an immigration operation carried out. These demonstrations started because there was concern that there was going to be one.
Yes, and we know that because people on the ground told us that, there was like 30 Border Patrol vehicles showed up, and then another 20 SUVs. So all the indications were they were preparing to carry out an operation.
Now, President Trump, in response to protests like the one yesterday, ordered at least 2,000 National Guard members to L.A. To assist immigration agents. We've heard reports that they are already here.
We have seen photos of them in downtown Los Angeles and seen reports of them in downtown Los Angeles. They're not in my district. I do think this is a situation where the president is escalating a situation that is unnecessary. I think he's doing this on purpose. And it's only going to cause more tension. I will tell you that we have heard from federal officials that they intend to do immigration enforcement for the next 30 days. So this is an ongoing effort. And I have spoken to sheriffs that have said we don't need the National Guard. And I will remind your callers, your viewers, your listeners that the sheriffs in Paramount got everything under control yesterday, and LAPD had cleared out downtown last night without the help of National Guard.
And about the interaction between federal agents and local law enforcement in Paramount, as you mentioned, the Sheriff's Department was involved in addressing what they called an unlawful assembly. Do you see the distinction that local law enforcement is making about their involvement with the feds?
Yes. So I did have a chance to speak with the deputy sheriff Adam Paramount, and the captain there had made clear that they're there for public safety reasons. Now, when the crowd turns on the sheriffs or local police, when they assault them, they have to defend themselves. That's when you see them deploying those tactics.
Can you talk a little bit more about the concern you were referring to amongst constituents? What is the mood right now in the community?
Well, people are angry. They're concerned. There's a lot of anxiety about immigration enforcement. So if that's what these protests are about, these protests are about protesting the mass deportation and the pattern that this administration has shown over the last couple of months. Right? They've trampled all over due process rights. There's a better way to do enforcement. So that concern is terrorizing the community. And now you send the National Guard against their own people. And that is, of course, going to escalate the situation, and we're trying to de-escalate.
So what do you say to the families in your community, many of them that are mixed status, who've been living in fear of going out about their daily lives? You've heard that there's going to continue to be immigration operations. What advice would you give to those folks?
Well, the first thing I tell people is make sure you know your rights and you educate others as well. Observe and document anything that you see out of the ordinary. You can call immigrant rights groups. They have lawyers on standby to be deployed. Contact local elected officials. But whatever you do, protest peacefully. And of course, if you see violence happening, do not participate.
We've been speaking with Congressmember Nanette Barragán. She represents the 44th District that includes Paramount, where some protesters faced off with federal agents and the LA County Sheriff's Department yesterday.